Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to this Monday morning with Business Coach Moloy. And we are in the series of scaling on episode 5. And we're going to talk about something that is extremely important and critical for entrepreneurs because they just can't let go. So today we are going to talk about how to delegate without losing control and why letting go feels so difficult and why not letting go will become dangerous. So, the past few weeks, we have been having honest conversations about what happens when businesses are growing, not the glamorous side, not the social media version of growth, the real version. We spoke about why growth becomes heavy. And today, we are going to talk about delegation. Now, the moment I mention delegation, I can almost predict that many entrepreneurs are thinking, Malay, I need to know, I know I need to delegate. Apologies for this. I know I need to delegate. I understand the importance of delegation. I've attended enough and more workshops on delegation, but the real sentence is the but. But I can't delegate. But my delegation is not working. But I tried delegating, but it is for some reason not giving me the desired results. I've yet to find a founder who says, I love delegating. Most entrepreneurs struggle with it, not because they're stubborn, but because they don't understand management. But because delegation is not a management issue, delegation is an emotional issue. Most founders build their businesses through personal involvement. They know the customers, the products, the quality, the market, the history behind every important decision. And suddenly someone says, you need to let go. Now, think from that entrepreneur's perspective, think from that founder's perspective. That sounds so dangerous. What they're hearing is not you need to delegate. What they're hearing actually is trust somebody else with something that you've spent years building. And that is not going to be easy. A few years ago, I was working with an entrepreneur who owned a successful business, excellent products, strong reputation, good team, and yet he worked incredibly long hours. And one day I asked him, why are you still involved in so many operational decisions? He smiled and said, because I don't want mistakes. A very fair answer, but when I asked him, how many mistakes are you making because you're overloaded? He became quiet because that question changed the conversation. Most entrepreneurs are focusing on the mistakes others might make, yet very few focus on the mistakes they are making because they're trying to do too much. Think about it. When the founder refuses to delegate, decisions get delayed, opportunities get mixed, employees stop taking ownership, the founder gets exhausted, customers wait longer, strategic thinking disappears, growth slows down. And these costs are much larger than the occasional mistake made by a team member. And this is the great paradox of entrepreneurship. Founders say, I don't delegate because people make mistakes. But because they don't delegate, people never become capable enough to make mistakes. Think about it. How does capability develop? Through experience, through responsibility, through decision making, through learning, through the occasional mistakes. Nobody becomes competent without going through that process. Think about your own entrepreneurial journey. Did you make mistakes? Of course you did. Did those mistakes teach you something? Absolutely it did. Now imagine somebody who had prevented you from making that very mistake. Would you have become that entrepreneur you are today? Probably not. Then why do we deny that same learning process to our teams? Most entrepreneurs don't delegate or don't want to delegate because they don't want to delegate responsibility. And that is a very important distinction. Many founders think that delegating, they hand over tasks, they assign activities, they transfer workload, the responsibility remains with them. The employee executes, the founder still worries, still checks, still follows up, still makes the final decision. That is not delegation, ladies and gentlemen. That is simply distribution of labor. Real delegation requires trust. Trust does not mean blind faith. Trust means creating clarity, clear expectations, clear outcomes, clear accountability, clear authority. The problem in many organizations is not the lack of trust, it's the problem is lack of clarity. Now, let me share a common scenario. An entrepreneur tells a manager, handle this. The manager interprets it in one way, the founder interprets it another way. The outcome disappoints everyone. Then the founder concludes people cannot be trusted. But the real issue was unclear delegation. Why do founders keep getting pulled back in? This because employee often bring decisions back. Have you noticed this? A manager comes with your problem, the founder provides the answer. The next day, another problem arrives. The next day, another answer is provided by the founder. And over time, a pattern develops. People stop bringing solutions. They start bringing you problems. And the founder becomes the central decision-making machine. A common phenomenon across all employees' mindset is they don't like making a decision. They don't like giving a solution. Because nobody wants to own a mistake that can happen in the future. The mistake should be always on the shoulders of the entrepreneur. The question that can change everything is, instead of answering immediately, try asking, what do you think we should do? Simple question, powerful impact, because now the employee must think, and people hate thinking. But because now the employee has been put into that situation of thinking, he must think, he must analyze, he must exercise judgment, and that's how capability develops. Delegation will feel very slow at the initial stage. There's no pretending otherwise. Teaching somebody takes much longer than doing it yourself. Explaining takes longer. Coaching takes longer. Reviewing takes longer. That is why many founders give up. They say, it's faster if I do it. And they're correct. Today, not 6 months later, not 2 years later, because at that point in time, the business has doubled and the founder no longer has the capability of making all the decisions himself. The real purpose of delegation is not to reduce workload. That's a side benefit. The real purpose of delegation is building organization capability. Because businesses scale through people, not through founders working longer hours. And let me ask you a difficult question. If your business doubled tomorrow, would you personally be able to handle double the decisions, double the customer issues, double the employee questions, double the operational complexity? And the answer is, of course, not. Which means growth itself requires delegation. And most entrepreneurs are scared about losing control. Delegation is not about losing control. This is where entrepreneurs get stuck emotionally. They believe there are only two options. Either I control everything or I lose control completely. Neither is true. There is a third option. Systems, processes, review mechanisms, scorecards, accountability, clarity. These allow delegation without chaos. Many founder thinks that control comes from involvement. Control comes from visibility. And that is the difference. You do not need to be involved in everything, but you do need visibility into what is happening. The best organizations do not create control through founder intervention. They create control through information. Let me share a simple analogy. Imagine a parent who never allows a child to do anything independently, never make decisions, never solve problems, never take responsibility. What happens? The child remains dependent. Now imagine another parent, the child gets responsibility gradually, makes mistakes, learns, improves, falls, gets up. But it develops confidence and eventually becomes independent. Businesses work the same way. As businesses grow, the founder's role should change. The founder cannot remain the best problem solver. The founder must become the builder of problem solvers, and that is a completely different role. Many entrepreneurs struggle because they're trying to scale the business without evolving themselves. And that is the problem. Businesses cannot be scaled by keeping everything within your control. So, like every week, a reflection for this week as well. And I want you to think three questions. First, what decisions am I still making that somebody else could make? Question two, what recurring problems keep returning to me? And third, where am I creating dependency without realizing it? Because awareness is the first step towards building a better delegation system. Where do we go next? In the next episode, we are going to talk about something that silently damages many growing companies. Why communication breaks as companies grow. When businesses are small, communication is easy. When businesses grow, communication becomes one of the biggest challenges. Messages get distorted, priorities get unclear, departments stop aligning, and suddenly everybody feels busy. Not because everybody is more connected. So communication is something that we really, really need to build on as we move into a scale up of an organization. That is something that we'll address next week. But final thoughts for today, delegation is not the act of letting go. It's the act of building capability, building confidence, building leadership, building an organization that can grow beyond the personal capacity of the founder. And that is what scaling ultimately requires, because that is the legacy that is you're going to leave behind, because you're not going to be there throughout the lifetime of your business. Your business should exceed multiple generations and more generations to come. I look forward to continuing with this journey with scaling up. Things are going to get more challenging as we go forward. But then, till next Monday, same place, same time, God bless, have a fantastic week, and I shall see you on the other side.